Brad Holmes holds a press conference, and you think some local news reporters are actually going to get his game plan out of him? You've got to be kidding me. Kevin McGonigal is clearly the face of Tigers baseball. We are the face of the Detroit Fan Forum. For the Fan Forum of Detroit, like and subscribe. Join us. We're trying to hit 500 subscribers. Once we do that, someone's winning a hoodie. I'm Mark. I'm bringing in Hermdo. We're going to do a midweek live episode and talk about where do you really truly think these guys are going, right? I'm already picking O-line. But some people are making a case for an edge rusher. We had that Brad Holmes press conference. There's so much more to talk about. But before we do that, let's bring in Hermdo. Mr. Hermdo, how are you?
Doing good, man. Doing good. Just chilling. What's shaking with you, man? We're doing a midweek show. It's exciting. Exciting.
Yes, and guess what? We got our boy Vincent on here. He was already in the chat saying what's up. That just makes me so happy. What's up,
How you doing,
We're
Vincent,
happy
buddy?
to have you
Good to
here on
see you.
this lovely Wednesday night.
Yes.
So like I did a little intro, and I was trying to explain to the viewers out there that Brad Holmes had a press conference, and some
Yes.
local crack shot news reporters tried to get the truth out of him and tried to figure this man out. But shame on Lions fans for thinking that they needed a press conference to figure Brad Holmes out.
Yeah.
We already know how he thinks. So
Yeah.
I want to talk about that. I want to talk about, now that we did our mock draft, spectacular. Are you feeling any which way about somebody now? Who are you feeling a little stronger about? And then also Kevin McGonigal, he's a Tiger for life. I mean,
Yes.
for a good portion of his career. What is it, 7 years?
8 years.
$150 million guaranteed, 8 years, $150 million. I did not see this coming. Lots to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. As far as players go, you mean like players from the draft? Obviously, I'm assuming that's what you mean.
You know,
yeah.
we went through our exercise last Sunday, and I didn't really think at first that I had a concrete understanding of who Lions fans wanted. But after going through that and people sending me their mock drafts, so thank you if you did.
Yeah.
It got me thinking, okay, I'm actually going to plug into the media, right? Now we're actually starting to see some mock drafts. Who do the Lions fans and who do the outside reporters think we're going to take? And I started to even hear a theme, right? A theme that somebody said there's a safety out there that is almost an all-pro, can't miss. And we talked about, would you take that safety if it was him? So it was just kind of interesting. After we did our episode, it got me thinking.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking at some of trying to understand like Brad Holmes' approach here. We talk about him. Holmes, he stated they don't feel, pressure. I mean, from what I'm hearing, he doesn't feel pressure to draft a tackle or edge rusher at number 17 to just fill a hole. But he's going to stick to his board. He doesn't want to reach. I know Taylor Decker and Graham Glasgow, Frank Ragnow. No, Graham Glasgow, he's sticking around, but Frank Ragnow's gone. But yeah, they might be trading up in the first round. That could be interesting. That could be very interesting. But, we're looking at some of these early mock drafts. They were kind of split. I think they were split early on, and then we saw them leaning heavily towards like offensive tackle. And, we talked about like their needs and whatnot. And I've seen the latest round of expert mocks from Dave Burkett, Zierlein, and Reuter has shifted heavily. Nearly 90% now project at offensive tackle at number 17.
Yeah.
And we talked about Spencer Fano, Caden Proctor are the heavy favorites. I know I brought some. I don't know if you still have the mock draft. What was his? Oh, I can't remember his name. I'm so bad with names. You got to forgive me. But those, I think they're going to.
And this is a draft full of names, Hermdo, that are hard to pronounce too. So there's a lot of big, like, long names in this draft. Yeah.
I've been looking at draft boards left and right. I've been seeing all this shit, going up and down. And, that's according to not my sources, by which I mean Google. That's what I think Lions are probably going to do. But they might use the first 2 picks on the offensive line. That's what they're saying, a double down kind of strategy. Kind of ensuring the run game rates remains good for Jahmyr Gibbs and the new addition, our buddy Isaiah Pacheco. But yeah, I think they want to invest in Gibbs. I don't know. We were talking about whether we should sign him or not. What's going on there because we know the old wisdom. You don't sign running backs, but I think Jameer Gibbs. I think we both
Yeah,
agree. Yeah,
but here's my argument against that. This is becoming a run heavy league now.
yeah,
The importance of linemen and running backs, we're kind of going back to the 90s now, and not to take away from the RPO and all that stuff, but running backs are starting to become a big thing again, right? Long live the days
yeah,
of we're going to do it by committee. You're starting to see teams commit to running backs as an everyday starter.
yes,
This running back, the running back out of Notre Dame, he's a heavy hitter. The gentleman out of Nebraska that you brought up, he's a heavy hitter. But you're starting to see Tom teams
yeah,
really invest in a solid one back, lead back, and then the offensive line. So it's kind of strange actually, and it goes back to when Brad Holmes made that big investment in Jameer Gibbs to trade to go pick him up,
yeah,
right, and draft and trade up. It's just it really starts to show how I know I'm a Brad Holmes slacky, but I really think he sees the bigger picture better than some of the GMs. And no one gives him credit for that because let's not forget when our Super Bowl window was wide open, it was because our offensive line was the best and our running game was nasty, right? So
hmm
I want to throw that out there. And I'm starting to see why everybody's all in on tackle.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Definitely. I mean, there's some people. Now, this is just speculation, of course. But some people, even maybe some people in Detroit media have been saying they want to trade up because the void left by Taylor Decker is pretty big. It's pretty big. It's something that's
Yeah.
drawing a lot of concern from Lions fans, and people are saying you got to trade up, get a sure thing at left tackle. You got to trade up, go get somebody from that 17 spot because you don't know who's coming off the board early. I haven't researched all the other teams. I mean, we'll see. What happens, but we'll see. What the draft strategy will be. I do think it's probably one of those two from Fano and Proctor. If I had to guess,
Yeah.
I'm not looking at a draft board right now. But yeah, I mean, would you be all right with them trading up? I mean, I don't know what it would take, but maybe a couple fourth round picks or something. But if a guy like somebody like Proctor's, I mean, I don't know if it's probably not a top 10 talent, but maybe
I
I don't
think if
know.
they're going to go offensive tackle, I really don't think they move around. The only thing I think they're going
Yeah.
to do if their offensive tackle is they're going to trade back, kind of like we did, with the intentions of
hmm
maybe it being such a a, a heavy draft in offensive tackles and so deep that if you start to see some of these teams overcommit to the pass rush in the first round, and you start to look at guys like Spencer Fano, right? And he's looking like he's
hmm
coming closer to you. I think then do you trade back and say, I'll take Caden Proctor instead? Right. I just think that that's where Brad Holmes is at. I don't think he's going down
Yeah.
into the draft early for an offensive tackle just because they're so heavy. I'm starting to think like, and Vincent just brought up Caleb Lomu, late
Yeah.
first round. That's what I'm talking. Like we could get some NFL ready starting guard tackles later in the first round. And it seems like the teams that are going to be going deep, going and kind of like jumping in will be teams that are looking for pass rush only. Like the Cowboys are
Yeah.
projected to go get the next Micah Parsons and make a
hmm
deep run and trade the farm and trade all of Jerry's stem cells for
Yeah.
a good pick. But I look at Brad and I just think, okay, in reading and watching his press conference, just reaffirmed everything to me is just what Brad Holmes does. He kind of like just he sits there quietly on his hands with and sticks to his plan, which it sounds simple, but dude, we've seen it before with all of our past general managers where they melt down and cave into the local pressure of the media. And I think Brad
Yeah.
Holmes has always done a really nice job at sticking to his plan.
Yeah. Kind of ignoring the noise, just, not messing
Yeah.
around, keeping his board, intact, not, making any kind of crazy plays and whatnot. I mean, we see him move up and down the board before. He moved up to go get Jamison Williams, he moved up to go get, Jameer Gibbs. I'm not sure if that would be a strategy now, but yeah, I mean, you never know. I mean, but I'd like to think, it's been about 5, 6 years of Brad Holmes draft, so I think we kind of know what to expect from him at this point. But now uh, there's been some other stuff, some other other movers and shakers. Um, there's some in the top round, I mean, in round one, there's some guys that are visiting the Lions supposedly. We got Jimmy Rolder,
Yeah, I saw
linebacker
that.
from Michigan. Yeah, he's an instinctive run stuffer who could fit the role left by Alex Anzalone. We got Donovan McCulley, also from Michigan. Big, he's a big guy. He's 6'4". He's kind of
Hmm.
developmental, but he's a good blocker, and we know how much Dan Campbell loves blocking receivers. And then we got Vega Ione. He's a guard from Penn State. Rising Hype suggests he's a target if the Lions trade back or look at interior offensive line in round two. So we'll see. We'll see. I know we love
So
saying
those are
that.
the confirmed visits.
Those are the confirmed visits as far as I know.
And did you see, were there any defensive ends on that confirmed list? I'm sorry. Go through that.
Uh,
Can you
no,
comb
there's a
through that?
linebacker, wide receiver, and a guard.
Linebacker, wide receiver, and a guard. Okay, so wide receiver from what school?
Michigan, Donovan
Oh,
McCulley.
okay, Michigan. Donovan McCulley. All right. Interesting. All right. So that's, again, I guess Caden Proctor is scheduled for a visit or already had a visit with the Lions, and they're bringing in
Um,
Spencer Fano, and there's another offensive tackle too. And there was some stat about how the Lions always draft whoever they bring in for visits. There's no like super secret, like they do their homework on their guys. So if
yeah,
they're doing homework on somebody, that's a pretty good sign. They're not going to do the wild card stuff that we see a lot of these shitbag teams do.
yeah. Well, he keeps, Brad Holmes keeps things under wraps, but they said several key offensive linemen have been confirmed to have met with the team through official visits or significant scouting presence. We have here, these are official draft visits. Caleb Lomu, who we talked about, our good friend Vincent brought him up, is reported to today, April 15th, tax day, that Lomu has spent time in the pre-draft process meeting with the Lions. He's an athletic tackle with elite
That's a
movement
good sign.
skills, as we all know. He has to refine his technique a bit, but that's what development is for. Also, our good
Yeah,
friend Caden Proctor confirmed they have spent significant time with Proctor. NFL insider Daniel Jeremiah mentioned the Lions love Proctor, who's a massive 300. That sounds pretty good.
heavier than
Also,
that,
we
I
have,
heard.
yeah. Also, we have Blake Miller, another offensive tackle, this one from Clemson. They have done extensive research on Miller. I think he's a frequent projection for pick 17 because of his day one starter or readiness. So, yeah. Then we got a couple
Okay.
of fish. Yeah. So, I'll make what you will of that, but signs are saying defensive tackle. We do love our boy. I mean, I think Caden Proctor would look good in Honolulu blue. That seems to be, from what I've read, my official sources. It seems like he might be the
Yeah.
guy.
And he seems to be unanimous in all these mocks, and I feel like I've been saying his name since the season, since we started talking about this. He just stuck out and fit the mold
Yeah,
of Brad Holmes. So I think it's one of those where Penne was there and it was so obvious how pro ready he was. And it was just like, okay, he's a can't miss. And I just feel like Caden, the only knock on him, Hermdo, is that he's too heavy right now. I think he's in at like
yeah.
390 or 380.
Well,
But
they say he's
dude,
352 now. That's still big,
well,
but
they can control his weight, but if just looking at him, he's a mauler, dude. He's a beast.
yeah,
He's an absolute. I mean, his arms are the size of my head, and he's
yeah.
mobile, right? He still has an explosive. I don't know. I'm just trying not to fan out over the guy, but I just feel like it's the right fit. When you're
Yeah.
losing Taylor Decker, it's the right fit. I also think that we can't ignore the fact that there are still some edge rushers out there in the free agency market, veteran edge rushers that we
Mhm.
could pick up where it takes the pressure of that notion of, okay, well, Aiden Hutchinson needs somebody. If offensive tackle is the unanimous first round pick, which I'm starting to think that, you know,
Yeah.
everyone's starting to find their like top three guys they like. Now we move on to the second round. Does the unanimous easy pick becomes pass rush? I had mentioned that we've seen it before where good teams like the Eagles or the Ravens or the Seahawks, they'll find somebody in the second round that slides in there and then they'll go make a move for them. And
Mhm.
Is that the move, or do we just completely, I don't wanna say ignore pass rush, but just kinda pretend like we don't need it really bad on the other side of Aiden, which he's done before, and he gets
Yeah.
a Parker and a yeah, so I don't know. That's where I'm at now.
Yeah, I don't know if they're really because they've had opportunities to sign guys to put alongside Aiden for a while, and Brad Holmes
Yep,
seems to really be dragging his feet on that. I don't know if that's a priority. Al Qadim Muhammad is gone. Marcus
yep,
Davenport is a non-factor. There's still some free agent, edges out there we could pick up. I don't know. I think if they do, I think it's going to be. I think it's probably going to be a round two thing. I think they're going to pick up an edge in round two. I think,
okay.
I don't think it's a round one priority. I think they'll pick somebody up. We went over some names. I can't remember any of them, of course. I have to look them up, but I'm bad at this. But I'm just being silly. But we'll
I want to bring something up real quick that
yeah,
Vincent just brought up, and he said he could see a lot of first round trades. It's not a real good quarterback class, and it could affect the draft. I think that's an excellent point because,
yeah.
I always used to say the NFL would pipe in and force quarterbacks down your throat every year. And I made a bet with Sean Dolan on this, and I won. And it was like
Yeah.
every year you'll have at least, I forgot what it was, like 4 or 5 quarterbacks will get drafted in the first round. They don't deserve to be there. Everybody knows it, but there's a lot of
Hmm.
pressure to take a quarterback right in the first round. And I feel like teams have just gone away from that now to the point where the quarterback position in college is a dimer. It's very, very rare do you have somebody who's like pro ready, like a Joey Burrows, right? Or
Yeah.
like Fernando Mendoza is supposed to be just straight up ready
Yeah.
for the
Yeah.
pros, which I could see. You don't see that anymore. There isn't that stack of quarterbacks. So now you look at it to you say to yourself, what does that mean for teams and how are they going to trade? But how does that benefit the Lions, right? So
Yeah.
that's a good point, Vincent.
Yeah. Very good. Very good point. Yeah, that might change the Lions draft strategy. It all depends.
What's up, J Rod?
I'm Yeah, how you doing, buddy? Yeah, this I don't think there's going to be too much. It does seem to be a very deep draft for quarterbacks this year. So people are getting, a lot of teams are desperate. Yeah, we'll see. I mean, we'll see what happens. I mean, we could
It's
score some. Yeah, we score some picks or something. But yeah, I think there probably will be a
well
lot of
let's
movement. I
let's
mean, Vincent brought up a good point.
And let's talk about this because this garnered some big time attention on local media was the Sam Laporta trade, right? That
Yeah,
news just like we talked about it for like 5 seconds and then I kept
yeah,
seeing video after video after video about the Chiefs might trade the Lions a second round pick for Sam Laporta so they could have their heir to the throne of Travis Kelsey. And I'm like, where did all this come from? The guy had a back injury and it
yeah.
seemed like at the risk of bringing him back too early, they just put him on the IR and said, "We're invested in you long term." But is anybody out there still really thinking that this Sam Laporta thing is any more than just smoke and mirrors? Because I don't get it still.
I don't understand what I don't know. I don't know where that's coming from. Honestly, these are the
Yeah,
things. Maybe it's kicking up steam a little bit. I don't get the vibe that people want him out of Detroit. I mean, the guy's a premier tight end. Those guys don't grow off trees. I'm just
no.
wondering, because you got a guy like, I mean, you had you traded what's his name to the Minnesota Vikings. He was a top 8 pick, and then
Mhm.
you picked up Laporta. Uh, I can't remember his name, but yeah, the other guy. But
Well, the thing is, and that's a good point, but TJ Hawkinson,
T.J. Hawkins. Yeah, sorry.
but Brad didn't draft TJ, so that kind of makes sense, right? That's not his
Yeah,
guy.
yeah,
Laporta's his guy. That's just to me, just screams against the grain.
yeah. I don't get it. I don't understand. Um, I'm hearing. I mean, I
Who
got a
gets
little bit
paid
of.
next? Gibbs, Laporta, Campbell, or Branch? Oh, that's a good one.
That is a good one. Jeez. I don't know, but I'm hearing, yeah, I got something about the tight end debate, but they signed Tyler Conklin. They figured
Yep.
tight end depth is solved. Others are worried about Sam Laporta's long-term health. So I mean, that could be a debate. Not Tyler Conklin, and then you had like Brock Wright, but he's pretty much, whatever. But so maybe the is the Laporta injury worse than we thought? I don't know. I mean, people seem to be concerned. That's the vibe I'm getting. Like maybe his injury is worse than we thought. I mean, I don't know. Like if you want to offload him on the Chiefs for like a second, what was it, a second rounder maybe? But
Yeah.
I mean, do you
Vincent
really want
brings
to
up a
press
good
the?
point. Does Brad Holmes value even tight ends that much to the point of like, yeah, trade him. We'll sign this Jolly kid, or we'll draft this tight end, or we'll pull a tight end out of our back pocket. That could be. I don't really know Brad Holmes' stance on tight ends.
I don't know. I don't
I
know. But
guess
you know,
Sam Laporta was his first love child.
yeah, you brought in an offensive coordinator who apprises tight ends. That's some of the things
That's
you
a
probably
really
get.
good point.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Kevin, what's can't remember any names today, but
Drew
yeah,
Petzig.
you brought in, Kevin Petzik. Jesus Christ. Thanks, Mark.
Drew.
Drew Petzik. Sorry. But yeah, it's one of those things. Yeah, you saw what he did in Arizona, the way he utilized tight ends in Arizona, and here, we
Hmm.
figured he'd have something like a strategy set up for like Sam Laporta to get the most out of him. I don't know. Maybe they think they can plug. We got the Petzik guy. Maybe they figure they can plug somebody in, another tight end, because you're gonna have to pay Laporta at some point. But maybe they want to
Yep.
hit the reset button again, and figure they can bring somebody in off this year's draft. Somebody. That's what I'm thinking. Like maybe the back injury is worse than we thought. Maybe Brad Holmes doesn't really value tight ends that much. Maybe he figures he can plug and play somebody in, and they can get the most out of them with Drew Petzing. I don't know. Maybe if Sam Laporta's days as a Lion look numbered. I'm not sure.
Okay.
I'm not sure, but
I think I think I'm starting to kind of see the bigger picture now. So you're saying you've got to pay, like J Rod was saying, you've got um, Gibbs, Laporta, Campbell, and Branch. Right? Gibbs is an
yeah,
automatic. You pay him. He's a once.
yeah,
He's a home run. You just. If I have to explain anything to you, just remember that I think we went 5 seasons without having a running back that had 100-yard more rushing game. Right?
yeah,
Like
yeah,
our longest rush one year was 5 yards, right? The other year it was
yep,
24 yards. You know what the longs we got now? 79 with Gibbs, right? So
yeah, yeah,
I just want everybody to remember that we haven't had somebody like this since Barry. You pay
yeah,
him. This is now, like I said, also to a running back league. But I love Jack Campbell and I love Brian Branch, but I think I love Jack Campbell more for this team long term than I think Brian Branch is going to be long term. Just seeing how kind of out there Brian Branch can be as far as getting hurt and running his mouth. I
yeah,
feel like Jack Campbell seems to be the more molded player to pay into. So
yeah,
maybe you franchise tag Brian Branch one year, but I'm starting to think, okay, if he doesn't value tight ends that high and you have to pay all four, maybe you sell high on Sam Laporta and you get more draft picks and it can be a plug and play, right? Like every
yeah,
year Iowa State has a tight end that is a pro bowler. So
yeah. We got T.J. Hockenson out of Iowa. But yeah, that's a
oh
good
yeah,
that's a
dude.
good tight end
They're
school.
all amazing.
Yeah, they are. There are some great tight ends there. They're doing something. There's something in the Gatorade in Iowa. But yeah, I guess I mean I think of the four out of Branch, Laporta, Campbell, and Gibbs. I think Laporta might be the odd man out.
Yeah,
I mean he's
I could see
probably.
that.
Yeah, because Brian Branch, I don't know. You look at the upsides of the guys. You look how long they've been here. You look at the value they produce.
Yep.
And just like looking at all the different factors. And I like Sam Laporta. I think he's a damn good tight end. I think he's one of those guys with a lot of upside potential. But I don't think as far as tight ends go, I don't know if that's a position that's really that hard to like replace. But I don't know. I mean, I guess compared to like a cornerback compared to a running back, guys like Jameer Gibbs, they don't exactly fall off the tree. Really elite
No.
linebackers like Jack Campbell, you know, you don't see guys like Ryan Brandt. For tight ends, I don't know. I mean, there's always a few good ones coming out of the draft every year. I mean, obviously there's good players coming out of the
Well,
draft,
and
but
not to devalue the safety position that Brian Branch
yeah.
plays, but like in J Rod, thank you. He said his wife just subscribed to us. Thank you so much. I appreciate
Oh,
that.
good deal.
He's like, say basically whose linebacking core is it now that Anzalone's gone? And I think once Brad passed up on Anzalone because I think Dan wanted to keep him. Brad was saying, "No, Jack, this is your linebacker room." And that
Yeah.
picture of Jack Campbell with his lips split wide open with blood coming out, and he's just like, I'm like, this guy he's like a linebacker from the 70s the way he plays. I just don't
Yeah.
think you take a guy like that and you give him the opportunity to lead this, and that's what I think he was brought here to do. So
Yep.
yeah, no, I think this is a Jack Campbell led middle linebacking core. He
Hmm.
gets the torch passed to him from Alex Anzalone. Derek Barnes, when we thought it was going to be his room to run, I think is when he kind of looked sheepish and shakish. But now that I feel like he can just be a part of the core, he looks really good.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
I'm all in on Jack Campbell, but I think when you got a guy like Brian Branch, he's a little bit more replaceable. And that's a position you always want to stay young at, just from like they're homing missiles, Hermdo. They
Hmm.
are. Unless you get an Ed Reed, which that's more of a Kirby Joseph kind of guy. And that is a whole nother conversation, right? The
Yeah.
coin flip on Kirby Joseph. Um,
Yeah,
it's
exactly, exactly.
right. So, anyways,
Oh, sorry.
these are all these are all just great kind of cerebral exercises to go through before you go through the draft, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Uh, when we're looking at also too, you and I, we mock draft a couple safeties. One was in the first round, one was in the third round, and we started to see. I think this is a strong draft for safeties too. So a
yeah,
position of need, but one we haven't really talked about. So don't be surprised if Brad goes in the third round and grabs a safety. Don't be surprised if Brad Holmes drafts a safety in the second round. I'm telling you,
yeah,
something feels weird about this draft when it comes to safeties.
yeah. A little bit. It
And
does
I'm just
feel a
unsure
little.
of
Yeah, if I had to guess, I think he might, he might be looking for a play. Maybe he's looking to replace a couple guys because the cap crunch is coming, and you're going to have to make some difficult choices and whatnot. There's going to be some odd men out, and there's probably going to be some. We're probably going to see some surprising trades. We're probably going to see some guys,
Mhm.
some guys that maybe we thought they were like core pieces. They're going to get moved, and it's just like the Lions. They got everybody on their rookie deals for a while. They made some noise, but now they're kind of playing off the back foot. And we we had a mediocre season last year, and we missed the playoffs. And now it's like people are restructuring their contracts. I know Jared Goff is and whatnot, so we'll have some more money to play around with. But you only got so much.
He opened up all that money. We haven't done anything with it. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, we haven't done. They still have a ton of money left. They still have a ton of money left, and that's kind of what I was thinking. Is I thought for sure, when the like the Max Crosby stuff was when that smoke was in the air, I thought Lions might have made a play at him, but that didn't happen. So I'm
Yeah,
not
and it
sure.
sounds
I'm
like
not sure. I mean, yeah,
it
it
sounds
just
like everybody's done trying to even get Max Crosby. It sounds like that whole thing
yeah,
just fizzled right out. Like that was
yeah,
as fake news was going to get.
I guess I guess that's just I'm not sure what that's just the thing. I'd like to think I know what Brad Holmes thinks, but he's sitting on all that money. You think he'd bring in somebody, maybe a decent free agent edge, but unless he moves around in the draft to pick one up, like a second round thing, 'cause it's definitely a position in need. Um, I don't know. I don't know. We might see. I don't know. Maybe we'll see because they got a couple picks in the fourth round. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I was actually just
I'm not.
looking up some of the fourth and fifth round picks that I had written down for the Lions, and you see a lot of people mocking wide receivers in the fifth round to the Lions, right? So obviously we lost Khalif Raymond, and we have a pretty deep wide receiver room already as it is. But don't be shocked when Brad Holmes goes out and goes to a small school like Missouri and gets Kevin
Mhm.
Coleman Jr.
Yeah,
He is a perfect replacement for Khalif Raymond. So just think about that, right? Like you're going to see them draft a running back. You're going to see them draft a wide receiver. I know in our mocks we went deep and we did depth on the line, but I'm starting to think that Brad is going to dip into the running back pool, the wide receiver pool. You're going to see those late round picks all be more on the offensive side of the ball. So don't get too
Yeah,
pissed off, Lions fans, when you start to see that this is not just going to be all tackles and edge rushers, right?
yeah, that's true. That's true. So yeah, it could be a surprising draft. Brad Holmes has surprised us before. He plays things close to the vest. A lot of GMs do, but yeah, I mean, I think we could see we'll have a few surprises in this draft. I can make that a Hermdo guarantee. We'll be surprised with one or two picks in the draft because they might not seem like positions of need, but I mean, it might be, I mean, maybe the guys have higher upside because there's some you got to be concerned about like issues of character, and that was something that's frustrated Lions fans. We see guys who maybe didn't have the best character. And, even if they were like really explosive athletes, and Lions would usually stay away from them. But we got a couple guys on the team that are little kind of hot dogs, as Mike Ilitch would say. But I don't know, maybe that's kind of wearing on them. Maybe they want like maybe they were thinking like maybe there's higher character guys. Maybe they would sign somebody as kind of a shot across the bow, like, hey, we can replace you if you don't start behaving yourself, or at least like making like some kind of a if somebody's underperforming, like kind of light a fire under their ass, just like get some young prospect up here, and he could threaten for a starting job. Yeah, yeah, we'll see what happens, as I'm so fond of saying.
Well, I want to throw a name out there too. Seth McGowan, running back from Kentucky,
Yeah,
another smaller school in the sense of football. But these are just some names I want to mention now. So if it happens, I can say ha ha ha. These are the smaller guys I was right about because as I do this and as I go through these mocks, I just think about that. But there is a conversation going on in the chat right now, Hermdo, that kind of got me distracted, and I think this is a good question, right? We have J Rod says that his wife asked him for his birthday, what
mm,
would he rather have? Michigan national championship, right? Obviously,
yeah,
U of M, right? Natty,
yeah.
or Lions Super Bowl for his birthday.
Oh,
And of course, he said you can blame me for the Lions not making the Super Bowl because I picked Michigan to win the Natty. But I don't know, man. Like I'm going Super Bowl, dude. Like to me, and I'm a Michigan fan, even though I went to Central, fire up chips. I still think that, Michigan won the Natty and that was awesome. But Lions win the Super Bowl, what is that going to do to this town? It's going to change people's lives forever.
it'll be madness. It'll be madness in the streets. It'll
Yep.
man, I played that stereo over so many times in my head, and so many times like I thought we were a lot closer than we were, but with Stafford, I thought for a while there it seemed like I really thought he was going to be the guy to lead us to the promised land, and he wound up leading
Yeah.
another team to the promised land. But
Yep.
like you think about it in your head, because I mean, I haven't seen the Tigers win a championship. I've seen them get to two. I've seen all the sports teams, the college teams, win a championship, get to the championship round, or at least achieve something notable. And the Lions are the
Yep.
one odd man out. And I don't know what like a Super Bowl would mean to this city. It'll be like amazing, like especially if it was like got some crazy trick play and they got into the end zone to like break a tie or something, or like take back the lead, like some really dramatic shit happening. You know, they built statues of Brad Holmes and Dan. They would build statues of every single player on the Lions roster, even the guy with the Gatorade
Yeah.
bottle. They'd build
Yep.
statues of him all over. They'd have him all over freaking Ford Field. It'd be like a huge thing. We'd build like a towering statue, like to Jared Goff, and we'd build it out of gold, and we'd worship it, and God would come down and smite us. No, but I'm just being silly. But yeah, that would be
You're not
a hell of
wrong.
a thing. That would be because
But
the Eagles, they put up a statue of their coach when they won their first Super Bowl in 2017 with Nick Foles.
oh, Sirianni.
Eh,
Oh no,
Sirianni,
that
yeah,
was
yeah.
that wasn't Sirianni.
No,
Was that Sirianni
that
with
was
Nick Foles?
no Sirianni won the last one, but it was
Yep.
somebody else. I forgot who. I know his name if I saw it. I think I don't know where he's coaching now, but or if he's coaching now, but yeah, it was a different coach. They built a statue of him, you know. And I'm just thinking in a town like Detroit where, championships are kind of at a premium right now, to say the
Doug
least.
Peterson. My
Doug
God.
Peterson,
He wore
man,
fucking
I
he
gotta like
wore
write this
goddamn
stuff down.
he wore visors, dude.
Yeah, he did.
Who wears
Doug Peterson with the
visors?
visor.
I used to
Yep,
I
yep,
used to
yep.
wear visors.
Oh, hell yeah, hell yeah. Bringing back that '90s style, but yeah, it would be
Used
absolutely
to wear an
incredible. I
upside
think,
down visor.
yeah, that was his look. That was style for a while.
Uh-huh. For a little bit.
But yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I mean, if this team did, go all the way, that would be a hell of a thing. Obviously, I mean, because the Lions, they were just like, just
Light up.
it would be
It would
insane.
burn down. Everybody
It would
would
burn down.
everybody would lose their mind. No one would go to work, and no one would blame them. Um,
Yeah,
I'm telling you right now, it would be. It I think about. I was listening to the Ice Guardians podcast with Brett Hull, and he was talking about winning cups in different towns, and like you win
yeah,
a cup in a small town like this, and there's like I don't know, whatever he said, 30,000 people at the parade. And he goes, but then you win a cup in Detroit and you're like, holy shit, it's
yeah, yeah.
insane. Like the whole town dumped out. So like think about and the Red Wings, the Red Wings were a really good hockey team back in the 50s and 60s. Like it was
Hmm.
just celebrating getting out of a bad era. Like that was a classic
Yeah,
perennial winner historical franchise. The Lions are historically bad. Nobody in our
yes,
lifetime is ever, because it's never happened, right? Nobody
no,
can ever say, oh, I remember when they won it. You can do that with Tigers fans. You could say 84, 68. There's still people out there that remember those
yeah,
games too well, right?
oh yeah,
You can say that with the Pistons, 04, 89. We've seen both. Um, it's the one anomaly in the state of Michigan. And I guess we have J Rod to blame for it because um, it was the Michigan won the Natty on his birthday, which is cool. Again, I'm a Michigan fan, and I wanted to see Harbaugh succeed and then just ride right off and say "fuck you" to the Big Ten and
yeah,
NCAA. But and then of course, Michigan winning the NCAA tournament in
yeah,
men's basketball was awesome.
oh yeah,
I had them picked to play UConn, which was really cool too.
yeah, yeah,
So I just think, man, if you're a Detroit sports fan and you're out there and you get your J Rod wish, pick the Lions, please, because we want to see them win the Super Bowl.
yeah, yeah. We need our championship bad. We need a championship real bad. The only,
So
yeah,
bad.
yeah, so fucking bad. God damn it. I remember the Red Wings, the last time the Wings won, just a Hermdo story, if you don't mind, but I was at my buddy Sean's apartment, and we were chilling, watching the game, and Sean wasn't really a hockey fan. He was just kind of like, whatever. But that last, when it was Marian Hossa crashing the net, and there was like three wings
Oh,
around, and that puck skidded right in front of Chris Osgood, like an inch away from the goal line, and it didn't go in. And then the seconds clicked off, and then all of a sudden, everyone's just jumping around. I remember screaming. I remember jumping up and down. I remember we drove back down Gratiot. We were by Gratiot and 11 Mile, and there was like riot vehicles on the streets. It was totally crowded. It was absolutely insane. But that was just,
and that's for a team that's already won, right?
yeah, for a team, they won 3 championships before that. The Pistons won a championship a few years before that. People were crazy. People went crazy, man. But, I just, I, not to change the subject, but, I mean, are the Pistons in a position to win a championship now? I mean, they possibly get there right now with the way they're playing, but it's entirely possible. But I mean, I'm not, really penciling it in,
I'm
but
Don't but I'll tell you what right now, and I'm glad you brought this up because not a
yeah,
single person is picking them to do anything, and shame on these NBA slackies for being
yeah, I heard about
Boston's
that.
jock, right? Not a single they literally controlled the East the entire season. They lose their star in Cade Cunningham and they don't miss a beat. This team is so
Yeah,
deep. This team plays phenomenal defense. Now I'll give you I'll give you the fact that they haven't really done well against the West, but that's not what you have to do to get out of the East. That's
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
a whole different story, right? I'm talking about Boston, I'm talking about New York, I'm talking about Cleveland. These are the teams that I'm sorry, why are you sleeping on the Pistons? Everybody's unanimously putting Boston and Oklahoma City in the
yeah,
championship. It's just like it's automatically penciled in.
yeah. That does
Sickening.
piss me off. Just one of those teams, it's just the Pistons. It's some people might think this is like an aberration of the season. Some people might think this is a fluke. Personally, I thought the 0-28 season was a fluke, but um,
Mhm.
it just Pistons just don't command that kind of respect yet. Boston, obviously, the legacy that team has. All those championships.
Yeah,
Bill
it's
Russell
Title
back in the
Town.
day, and then then the Kevin
Larry
Garnett, Paul
Bird.
Pierce team, and then those guys with Jalen, what's his name? They won a couple of years ago. But yeah, you Boston with those teams, they just command respect. They're legendary. I mean, it's them and the Lakers, speaking of all titles and stuff. But yeah, Pistons just they gotta, they haven't. That's I mean, they were so bad. They were so mediocre. They weren't that like, necessarily like god awful, except for the last few years before Kate. I mean, even when Cade was here, it took a couple of years, but Pistons just don't command that kind of respect yet, and it's a shame.
Nope.
But it's like sometimes I kind of roll my eyes when people say Detroit versus everybody because I do think Detroit gets positive press in some regards, as long as
Yeah,
they're
much
having
better
some
than it
fun.
used to.
Yeah, people, yeah, but the thing is with Detroit, it's just not, you know, I think Detroit's the best. I think it's the best sports market in the country. But there's some things about it, just like on like a national level, you're going to have the LAs, you're going to have the New Yorks, you're going to have the Bostons,
They'll never go
and
away.
Detroit's just
Ever.
yeah, exactly. And Detroit's just not seen at that level. But it's going to take a while. It's just like the Detroit versus everybody thing. Detroit, I mean, like I said, they get some positive press sometimes, but like look at the Lions. I mean, they kind of fell apart a little bit, and I mean, people were projecting them. I mean, people were saying nice things about the Lions, talking about the Lions turnaround. They have one season,
Mhm.
everyone's just like jumping off the train. But yeah, it's with the Pistons,
Was still a
they were
winning
so
record.
bad for so long. I don't know if they're going to have to win it. They're going to have to win something big or go on a really deep run. They're going to have to prove it. I mean, Pistons. You know what? They haven't won anything since 2004. We talk
Yep.
about how good this team is now, but you haven't won it. In a long time since you and I were in high school. Um,
Yep.
so they're just going to have to earn it. They're just going to have to find a way and actually win something. That's the thing. The lot. And just the Lions haven't won anything in a long time, and Tigers haven't, won a World Series since before you and I were born. But that's just the thing. I mean, those teams get positive. I mean, there's positive press and whatnot, but for the most part, you're just not going to get respect like some other people, and it's just the way it is. It just, you
And
know,
it's okay. I
yeah,
think we always tend to do better when we're the underdog, right?
yeah,
Even I think the national media when Michigan was playing UConn expected UConn to pull off some magical win, right? And they
hmm
talked about how Coach Dan Hurley was so cool. So I think we always play best when it is the Detroit versus everybody. So if
yeah,
there was ever a year, J Rod said if Kate is even 90% healthy, they're going to be at least Eastern Conference Finals. And I agree. This is the year
yeah,
that everyone's sleeping on you. You're playing the best ball. They're not going to know how to prepare for you. And I just feel like this is your magical year, right? The Lions had it
yeah,
a couple of years back where they had their magical. No one really understands how this team's constructed yet, and let's just run with it before they figure us
hmm
out. And then obviously you lose a little momentum when you lose Ben Johnson, but um, Pistons haven't lost anything yet. But yeah, anyways,
yeah. Well, you
it's all
also got
good
to,
stuff. All good stuff.
yeah, absolutely. But another thing, I believe we brought this up before, but speaking about disrespect on the Pistons, that's nothing new. Because back in the Bad Boys days, they were they were beating Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan is
Yep.
like the messiah of basketball. People that get on Michael Jordan's case, no, Detroit's like the pariah. He's the great one. you know, the
Mhm.
best of the goat of all time or whatever. And that's the thing. I mean, you disrespect the big guys, then you kind of get disrespected. Then the 2004 team, they beat the Lakers, and they beat the
Yep.
Gary Payton, Karl Malone team, and all the press was just like, oh, nobody gave a shit that the Pistons won. Everybody gave a shit that Kobe, the dynasty might be over. It might be over, and the whole Kobe Shaq thing, and what are we doing there? That was the thing. And so the Pistons are just a disrespected franchise. Nobody, they played some great basketball, had some legendary players, a lot of legendary moments. But this thing is, I mean, Pistons are just going to have to. That's the thing. When the Bad Boys era, they were shoving it in everybody's face. Nobody wanted to see the Pistons win. The Pistons were the bad boys. They were assholes. They were nasty.
Mhm.
Bill Laimbeer and Isaiah Thomas and all those guys. And then they were bullying people. Nobody wanted to see them. They were the villains back then. And in 2004, the blue collar team, you know, nobody wanted to see them
Yep.
win because Detroit's not really a storyline. It's not like some Lakers versus Boston epic battle thing. It's just
That was the famous 5-game sweep.
yeah, the 5 game sweep, and it just that you can't sell it. Detroit just doesn't sell. It's a shame because it's a great
Yep.
sports city, as you and I know. I mean, we've been watching Detroit sports our whole lives, but uh, it's just one of those things.
Absolutely.
Detroit just they just don't get the love. They just don't get the love, and it frustrates me as a Detroit sports fan. I'm sure it frustrates you and it frustrates, Vincent and the people watching today, but Detroit just doesn't get that respect. It's just a Detroit
Well,
versus
that's why
everybody
we
thing.
have this platform to come out here and bitch about and complain. But no,
Yeah.
so I think we made some great points tonight. I,
Hmm.
I think we should wrap it up. We're about at that time
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
save some. We're going to be back on Sunday, so just make sure you subscribe, but you also hit the notification button because we go live every Sunday. We're
Yeah.
kicking this midweek stuff off now too, so that's exciting. I talked to Hitch. He gave me a 1.00000.01% chance that he'll be coming on soon. So don't expect him on anytime soon,
Yeah.
although he wants to. But yeah, no, this is just the start, man. Like we have the
Yeah.
draft coming up. We
Yes.
have so many positive things going. The channel's getting bigger. The weather's getting nicer. I want to thank everybody tonight for jumping in the chat with all the comments, all the love. Hermdo, do you have anything else to say before we mosey on?
Uh, you know what? With Detroit, respect isn't given; it's earned. So that's one thing. All our sports teams, all our athletes need to understand. As we as Detroiters understand that we're gonna have to grab people and surprise them. Nothing's for free. There's no such thing as a free lunch. Detroit sports just has to earn it. You know, that's just the way it is. But thank you all for watching. God bless all of you. I really appreciate it. Sorry I couldn't remember anybody's name as per usual, but I hope you were entertained. I hope one day I'll write everybody's name down and I will remember all their names. Yeah. So that's all I got. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if you're good, Mark. 'Cause I'm good. I'm good.
I'm good, baby. Like and subscribe. Go check out Hermdo's page on YouTube. Hermdo, like and subscribe to his page. God bless America, and we'll see you later. Peace.
See you later.